2 weeks ago, The Economist, which I hope everybody reads every week, featured a title about Are Free Markets Dead? And the thesis was really on industrial policy, with which Smith would not have had, it's not that he would have no sympathy for the argument, but relatively little. It's very hot topic today. Tano, we should each give our perspective, but let me just start with you. Why is that? Why are we seeing a resurgence of industrial policy, despite the fact that the cogency of Smith's arguments and other classical liberal arguments?
Yeah, I think it has to do with what we just brought up, that in a way, it's precisely because these shocks that have been induced by these two forces that we have unleashed after the neoliberal revolution in the 1980s have produced social dislocations, and that has a political consequence and a backlash. So, and this is not new. I mean, it has happened before in history, and you have to apportion appropriately the responsibility of each of these two shocks, technology and open trade. But the one that is visible and the one that is kind of most salient in our discussion today is the open trade one, even though I don't know where we are now in our estimates of how much of the employment reduction in manufacturing is accounted for.
It's really technology. The
exactly.
Classic case that protectionists point to is the domestic steel industry, but by far the bigger disruptor of steel in the United States was the advent of new technologies. And steelmaking, in fact, if you built a wall around the United States, you wouldn't change the bulk of the dislocation. Yeah. And I do think you're right, Tano. I think what's different about today, remember Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, 1776. Theory of Moral Sentiments, 1759. He wrote it before what we all might call contemporary industrial capitalism. It wasn't a thing at that point. Later thinkers are picking up on Smith, and early capitalists certainly celebrated Smith, but Smith wasn't writing for that world. Yeah. So in Smith's world, change happened very gradually. And if I got a different job, it's because one unskilled occupation isn't so good, so I'll pursue another unskilled occupation. It's not what we're talking about today. What's different today is not just the source of the shocks. As Tano said, I think very correctly, it's technological change number one, and then globalization. But it's some other factors, like their speed. The speed of change. Think right now what's happening in artificial intelligence, but each wave of general purpose technology, of which AI is an example, has come faster and faster in the 20th and the 21st century. The second is how persistent those changes are. So they don't come and go. And the third, at least for our political system, something we talk about in class, is how geographically concentrated they tend to be. And in many political systems, geographic concentration matters for democracy.
Yeah, so I was going to emphasize this third point, that one of the things that is very different from Smith's time to our own is the aspect of political representation, right? I mean, in the time of Smith, a lot of these decisions were taken, Kingdom at that time was democracy, but it was not our mass democracies, let's put it this way. And political representation was very unevenly distributed across political groups. So you could actually implement particular policies, and some of the people who were going to be most affected by the effects of those policies were not politically represented. And we discussed in class, when we have a bit of fun with this, tracking down the passage of the Corn Laws and how political weights were changing as a result of this.
Okay, let's do a jargon check. Corn Laws.
Corn Laws, yeah, sorry.
Were protectionist legislation in the United Kingdom in the early 19th century.
Yes, sorry.
And they were designed, basically it's a classic political economy story because it's agricultural interests that were the incumbents, think aristocrats who owned lots of land, versus the new manufacturing capitalists. So now
exactly. And whereas now, whatever changes we're going to be seeing, including, by the way, so we see a lot of political discussion around, say, our commercial relations with China and other countries, right? So that's very salient, it's very much in the political debate, and the reason why it's more heated than it was in, say, Smith's time, by the way, 10 years after the publication of the wealth of nations, France and England enter into one of the great commercial treatises of the history of commercial treatises, which is the Eden Treaty, which was all about technology transfers, okay? So some of these things were already being discussed by the political establishment, but of course, completely absent is the effect that these agreements would have on employment and prosperity in local communities. This is what is very different today. And by the way, it's very different, not just about trade, it's going to be very different about technology, because a lot of these technological innovations that we're going to be experiencing for the next few years, if not decades, are going to affect groups, workers, who are very alert politically and are going to react politically to the effects that technology is going to have on employment. We typically think about, say, blue-collar workers producing cars or producing some type of manufacturing commodity out there. But you know, the technology changes that are coming our way are mostly going to affect services. It's going to be very interesting to see how politically that's going to play out as technology starts taking away and eating away some of those service-related jobs. So,
Yeah, I mean, what if ChatGPT could teach modern political economy?
what is going to happen?